What if true strength has nothing to do with muscle, armies, or weapons, but everything to do with the mind you carry into battle each day? The Stoics believed that mental strength is the foundation of all human greatness. A fortress not made of stone, but of thought. A shield not made of iron, but of perspective. They knew, long before science or psychology, that the greatest war is always fought within. Today, our battles may look different. We don't march into gladiator arenas or command legions in the field, but we do face sleepless nights, crushing anxieties, financial uncertainty, and the relentless noise of a world that never pauses. And here, in this chaos, the same truth Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations still stands. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This video is not about abstract philosophy. It is about survival. About how Stoics built the kind of mental resilience that outlasted empires, and how you can do the same. So the question is not whether the world will test you. It will. The question is, will you build the strength to endure it? The fortress within. What if the greatest empire you could ever build is not around you but within you? Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire of his time, yet in his Meditations he wrote more about mastering the mind than conquering nations. Why? Because he understood what so many of us forget. The world outside is always fragile, but the world inside is yours to command. The Stoics saw the mind as a fortress. Strong walls were built not of stone, but of discipline. A watchtower was not manned by soldiers, but by reason. And within its gates, calm judgment reigned like a king. Think about your own life. How many times has the chaos outside, an insult, a bad day at work, an unexpected setback, broken through your defenses and left you restless, angry, or afraid? Each time, it wasn't the event itself that destroyed your peace, but the way you allowed it to breach your inner walls. Marcus said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." That's not poetry, it's a warning. If your thoughts are weak, your fortress will crumble. If they are strong, no storm can touch you. Building this fortress begins with awareness. Every reaction, every impulse, every thought that crosses your mind is a stone in the wall. You can choose to let fear, envy, and resentment weaken your defenses, or you can choose discipline, patience, and clarity, brick by brick, until nothing external can shake you. The modern world gives us endless opportunities to test this. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A coworker takes credit for your work. The market crashes and your savings vanish overnight. Do you rage, curse, and crumble? Or do you remind yourself, this is outside my control, but my response belongs to me? The Stoics weren't emotionless. They felt pain, anger, fear, just as we do. The difference is that they refused to let those emotions command them. They trained the mind like a soldier, alert, disciplined, ready for battle. They turned setbacks into sparring partners, teaching themselves endurance. Because the fortress of the mind is not built in comfort, it's forged in the fire of adversity. Every time you resist overreaction, every time you remain calm under pressure, every time you choose reason over impulse, the walls grow taller, the gates grow stronger, and the empire within you expands. And here's the paradox. Once you secure the fortress within, the world outside cannot enslave you. Kings may fall, wealth may vanish, storms may come, but you will remain unbroken. This is the first lesson of Stoic mental strength. Before you can lead, before you can endure, before you can build a legacy, you must first master the empire no one else can see. Pain, discipline, and growth. What if your greatest enemy was not pain itself, but the way you run from it? The Stoics believed pain was not to be feared, it was to be mastered. Epictetus, born a slave crippled for life, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." To him, pain was not punishment but training, and Marcus Aurelius echoed the same. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Modern life teaches us to avoid discomfort at all costs. We medicate stress, numb ourselves with distractions, chase constant pleasure, and run from anything that feels hard. Yet in doing so, we rob ourselves of growth. Because strength, mental or physical, cannot exist without resistance. Think of a muscle. It only grows when torn, strained, and rebuilt. The same is true of the mind. Every challenge is a weight pressing against you, testing your limits. You can either collapse under it or rise stronger because of it. The Stoics even practiced voluntary hardship, training their minds to embrace discomfort before it arrived. They would fast to remind themselves they could endure hunger, sleep on the floor to toughen their spirit against luxury, imagine loss, not to depress themselves, but to inoculate their hearts against devastation when it came. This wasn't self-punishment, it was preparation. Because pain will always come, whether you choose it or not. The Stoics understood that discipline is not about suffering for its own sake. It is about building the inner strength to face inevitable suffering with courage. In your own life, what does this mean? It means when stress mounts at work, you can see it not as torment, but as training. When a personal loss rips your heart apart, you can remind yourself, grief is proof of love, and endurance is proof of strength. When uncertainty rattles your confidence, you can anchor yourself with this truth. The harder the obstacle, the greater the opportunity to rise. Pain reveals who we really are. Discipline decides who we become. And growth is the reward of those who refuse to quit when it hurts. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, betrayal, endless war. Epictetus lived with chains on his body, but freedom in his mind. Seneca wrote his greatest works while preparing for death by his own hand. They all endured pain, greater than most of us will ever face. But through discipline, they transformed it into wisdom that has survived 2,000 years. So ask yourself, the next time pain knocks on your door, will you curse it as an enemy or welcome it as a teacher? Because only those willing to embrace the fire will ever walk out forged like steel. This is the second lesson of Stoic strength. Pain is not the end. It is the beginning of transformation. Leadership under pressure. What defines a true leader? Is it when the sun is shining and everything is calm, or when the storm hits and everything falls apart? The Stoics believed leadership was revealed not in comfort, but in chaos. Marcus Aurelius was not simply a philosopher king writing thoughts in solitude. He was a man leading Rome through plague, famine, and endless war. His people were dying, his generals betraying, his own body failing him. And yet, in the darkest moments, he wrote to himself, "If it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." Leadership under pressure is not about charisma or titles. It is about stability. When everyone else is trembling, the leader must stand still. When others collapse in panic, the leader must remain composed. And when the world falls into despair, the leader must carry hope, not as empty words, but as an example carved into his own actions. Think of your own life. Leadership is not only for kings and CEOs. You are a leader in your family, your work, your friendships. People watch how you respond when things go wrong. If you crumble, they lose confidence. If you endure, they find courage. The Stoic leader does not control outcomes. He controls himself. He does not promise certainty. He promises presence. He cannot shield others from suffering, but he can show them how to bear it with dignity. Marcus Aurelius called it his duty. Epictetus reminded his students that in every crisis, we have a role to play, whether large or small. And Seneca wrote, "It is in times of security that the spirit should prepare itself for difficult times. While fortune is bestowing favors on us, is the very time to strengthen itself against her rebuffs." In other words, the true leader trains for the storm long before it comes. In modern life, pressure takes many forms. An entrepreneur keeping their team afloat during financial collapse, a parent holding the family together through loss, a soldier on the front lines, or even someone quietly showing courage in a hospital bed. Leadership is not about position, it is about posture. How you hold yourself when the weight of the world presses down. And here lies the Stoic truth. Leadership is not about being unshaken, it is about being shaken and still standing. It is about carrying the fire of reason into the darkness, so that others, seeing it, find their way through. So when the next storm rises, and it will, remember this: the world doesn't need perfect leaders. it needs steady ones. Leaders who, like Marcus, turn inward, master themselves, and then radiate calm outward. This is the third lesson of Stoic strength. Under pressure, leadership is not power, it is presence. Mortality as a teacher. What if the most powerful reminder of how to live is the certainty that one day you will die? The Stoics called it Memento Mori. Remember, you must die. To modern ears, it may sound grim, even depressing, but to Marcus Aurelius, it was a compass. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Mortality was not a curse, it was a teacher. It stripped away illusion and left only what mattered. In a world of endless distraction, death sharpened clarity. In the face of endless choices, death forced priority. For Marcus, every day was an opportunity measured against the truth. Time is short, and only a fool wastes it. Consider your own life. How many hours slip away in arguments that don't matter, in scrolling through noise, in chasing approval that vanishes the moment you grasp it? We live as if time were infinite, yet each sunrise is one less we will ever see. The Stoics knew that mortality is not the enemy of strength, but its source. When you remember that you are mortal, trivial fears lose their power. The criticism of others becomes small. The pursuit of luxury becomes hollow. What remains is the question that matters. What legacy will I leave? This is not about morbid obsession. It is about urgency. Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Mortality gives us focus. It forces us to ask, if this were my last day, would I spend it this way? If this were my last act, would it honor who I claim to be? Modern society hides from death. We bury it beneath entertainment, technology, and denial. But the Stoics looked it in the eye and said, "You will not frighten me. You will guide me." By accepting death, they learned how to truly live. Marcus Aurelius led armies with the shadow of death at his side. Epictetus taught with the memory of chains still on his body. Seneca wrote his final words calmly as he prepared to take his own life under the emperor's orders. They did not fear mortality because they had already used it as their teacher. Ask yourself, if you were told you had 1 year to live, what would you change? Who would you forgive? What would you pursue without hesitation? That urgency is available to you now, without waiting for a deadline. This is the fourth lesson of Stoic strength. Mortality is not a thief of time. It is a reminder to spend it wisely. Duty, legacy, and the empire of the mind. What remains when the noise fades, when the body weakens, when even your name is forgotten? The Stoics believed that true strength is measured not by possessions or achievements, but by the duty you upheld, the lives you touched, and the empire you built within. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man in the world, yet he constantly reminded himself that emperors are forgotten just as quickly as slaves. He wrote, "All is ephemeral, fame, and the famous as well." And yet, here we are, 2,000 years later, still guided by his words. Why? Because he built an empire not of marble and armies, but of thought and principle. Duty was central to the Stoic life. Marcus did not choose his throne, yet he embraced the burden of leadership as his duty to Rome. Epictetus did not choose slavery, yet he turned his suffering into teachings that would outlast kings. Seneca knew his fate under Nero, yet he fulfilled his duty to philosophy until his final breath. To the Stoics, duty was not about recognition, it was about integrity. Doing what was right, even if no one noticed. In your life, duty may not look like commanding legions or writing timeless texts. It may be showing up for your family when it's hard. It may be leading with honesty in a dishonest world. It may be holding yourself to a higher standard when no one else will. Duty is not glamorous, but it is where true strength is forged. And from duty comes legacy. Not legacy as in statues or monuments, those crumble, but legacy as in the invisible ripples you leave behind. The child who remembers your wisdom, the friend who recalls your loyalty, the stranger whose life is eased by your quiet kindness. This is the legacy that endures. Finally, the Stoics spoke of the empire of the mind, a realm no tyrant can conquer, no wealth can buy, no storm can destroy. This empire is built when you master yourself, when you choose courage over fear, wisdom over ignorance, virtue over corruption. And unlike worldly empires, this one expands with every soul it touches, generation after generation. Marcus Aurelius did not ask to be remembered as a conqueror. He asked to be remembered as a man who tried to live with reason and virtue. That is the highest calling of mental strength. Not merely to endure, but to live in such a way that your life itself becomes a lesson. This is the fifth and final lesson of Stoic strength. Your duty is the work, your legacy is the echo, and your empire is the mind you rule. Outro, the final fortress. Strength of the body fades, strength of fortune disappears, but the strength of the mind, if built with discipline, pain, courage, mortality, and duty, becomes unshakable. The Stoics knew that chaos will always return. The storms of life do not stop. But what cannot be taken from you is the fortress you build within. A fortress made not of walls but of choices, not of weapons, but of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to impress the world, but to remind himself of the battles that mattered most, the ones no one else could see. Today, those same words challenge us. Will you be ruled by the chaos around you, or will you command the empire within? Your life, your legacy, your strength, it begins not tomorrow, but now. Each thought is a brick. Each choice is a stone. Each act of resilience expands the walls of your inner empire. So as you walk back into the noise of the world, remember this: storms may rage, but calm can still be chosen. If this message resonates with you, join us here at Timeless Stoic Mind. Subscribe, reflect, and begin your own empire of the mind.